In this episode, we travel through the lands of ancient temples, exotic pagodas, and monks, so come along. First step on this leg was Taiwan. We took a shore excursion to a large Buddhist center. In addition to a temple, there was a large visitor center. Here we see elephant and lion guards at the entrance to the Chinese piece of the center. The front of the center is Chinese in motif, and the back of the center has an Indian flair to it. We first visited a wedding chapel, which, except for the fact that there was a Buddha, looked very much like any Western wedding chapel. Some monks greeted us here, and then we went out into the middle of the grounds. This colossal gilded Buddha is one of the most breathtaking features of the center. The grounds are impeccably maintained. I was surprised to see the shops in the bottom of the visitor center. They're big into the Lucky Cat kind of thing. We had a nice vegan Buddhist meal here and subsequently went off to visit the monastery. Next port was Hong Kong, and we were parked right downtown, right next to the ferry terminal where we watched the boats come and go, and also right next to a very large designer shopping mall.
I'm looking for Roberto Cavalli.
That evening we had a special round-the-world evening gathering with a dinner at the Aberdeen Marina Club.
I did.
The entertainment included music on traditional Chinese instruments, as well as a Chinese acrobat show. It was surprising that the food wasn't Chinese. In fact, it was continental, and you might as well eat it on the ship. Alan and Beverly hosted a departure party where we had food and drink, and we watched our departure out of Hong Kong. The next port of call was Ha Long Bay in Vietnam. We had lunch in the Panorama Cafe, which was aptly named because this is the view we had of the bay from the balcony of the restaurant on top of the hotel. Our lunch was beautifully presented. It was very tasty. Next stop was the Royal Halong Hotel to pick up tickets for the water puppet show that evening. The hotel has a retro feel, as you can tell from the uniform here on the bellman. We had some time to kill before the show, so we got a foot massage before heading back for the performance. There's a dedicated theater within the hotel for the water puppet show. Have to admit I didn't understand all of the stories that were being told, but it was an enjoyable evening. That night we watched the lights of the city from the bay and saw what really amounted to a great light show. Next stop was Saigon, where we were docked riverside on the Saigon River. We explored a large local market that had everything from textiles to fruit, and then had a fabulous lunch across the street. What you up to, Princess?
I am responding to messages from family butters.
Oh, so we're on the free Wi-Fi.
Yes.
Having lunch. We also stopped for a drink at the Rex Hotel on their balcony, where many of the war correspondents during the Vietnam War hung out. Bangkok was next, where we had a private tour that began with an excursion to a local market. This market wasn't like any other you may have seen. It was located in a train station. When I say in a train station, I really mean on the train tracks. Merchants picked up their wares as the train came in, and guests and staff got out of the way. And when the train passed, it was business as usual. Next stop was the fishermen's village to see the crab-eating macaques and to see how they did their aquaculture. What are we doing with that?
We're feeding the monkeys.
The macaques?
The macaques.
Okay, cool.
Crab-eating macaques that are eating arrowroot. Yeah.
Oh, you see they come a lot. Oh, right over your head. They come a lot.
Sure, he got a little freak when the monkey tried to get into the boat. And then we were able to observe the people working in their, I guess you could call them, fields. They're farming oysters, crabs, and cockles. We had a seafood lunch on a platform in the water and then headed back home. Back at the fisherman village, we were surprised to find an abandoned monkey being cared for by the villagers. In Koh Samui, we took a four-wheel drive truck and headed off to a local waterfall. Spirit houses like these were a common sight throughout the island. We got back on the road and headed for another form of transportation, an elephant ride. Next, we saw a demonstration of how they use monkeys to harvest coconuts. Before heading off to a Thai restaurant for a great lunch overlooking the shore of the island. Grandmother and grandfather rock formations were next. Followed by a trip to the temple on top of the highest hill on the island. This was an interesting temple that had Chinese zodiac symbols around the periphery of the main idol. Next was a bone-jarring ride in the 4x4 truck across the back of the island to return to our ship. Next stop was Singapore, where we took the metro train to Chinatown and walked around the Chinatown area. Then we got on the hop-on, hop-off bus to have a little tour of the city. We got off along the river with the hopes that we would take a little boat ride, but after lunch we discovered that it was getting a little bit tight time-wise. One interesting thing about Singapore was all the whimsical architecture that you saw. So we headed off to the Raffles Hotel for the mandatory and expensive Singapore sling. The long bar was closed, which is where I'd hoped to have it, but the billiard room was open, so we had our drink there along with peanuts and enjoyed a little of the ambience of the Raffles Hotel. Next morning, we started with an independent tour of the pretty fantastic Singapore Zoo. That started with breakfast with the orangutans. These creatures are rather interesting. They come across from their enclosure and come and have breakfast at the same time that the guests are there eating their breakfast, and they pose for pictures with all of the guests. The zoo has a number of monkey species, which are very entertaining. And then we also saw the bird exhibit, which was filled with tropical birds from around the world, including, as you can see in these photos, a toucan, which was very entertaining. The flying fox wasn't quite as photogenic as some of the other birds, but we also then saw a white tiger, which was quite majestic. That ended our visit to the zoo and to Singapore. That's it from Rob and Sherry aboard the MS Insignia. Join us for the next episode.